And welcome back to part 2 of the Eanair mandala throw. We're going to carry on working with a 5mm hook and double knit yarn. We're going to work from this row here that we finished part 1. We're going to work these rows and then I'm going to square off the throw. So by the end of this excuse me, by the end of this part we will have a square rather than a circle. So I'm going to start with the yellow yarn for this row here. As always, I'm going to start with a slip knot onto the hook. As you can see, I've already worked some of the rows just to keep the video a little bit shorter, but I'll show you how to start off each round and how to work it. So for this round we're going to increase. We can start in any stitch at all, and we're going to start the row with 2 doubles into the same stitch. So yarn over into the stitch for a starting stitch, and we work 2 doubles into that one stitch. We're then going to work 1 double into each of the next 5 stitches. So just working along in each stitch, we do 1 double in each of the next 5 stitches. We then do 2 doubles into the next stitch, and then 5 doubles across the next 5 stitches. So we're increasing in every 6th stitch. And 5. So that's the pattern repeat for this row. 2 doubles in the first stitch that we start in, and then we're going to work a double in each of the next 5, 2 doubles in the next stitch, and then 1 double in each of the next 5. We're going to work that all the way around this row. So if you want to pause the video at this point and work your double row, at the end of this row you should have 84 stitches if you just want to do a quick count up to be sure that you've got the right amount of stitches. If not, it's quite easy to work in without unpicking or unraveling your work. If you've got 85 stitches, work 2 together. If you've only got if you've got 85 stitches, yeah, work 2 together. If you've not got enough, just work in 2 doubles into one of the other spaces. Just as long as you've got 84 stitches worked evenly all the way around. But hopefully working this way, if you've got the stitches right, you will have 84 stitches. So I'll let you carry on and work to the end of this row, and I'll meet you for the start of the next round. As we complete the last double there, the very first stitch that we had was the 2 doubles into 1 stitch. Just going to join into that stitch with a slip stitch, snip off the yarn and pull through. So that completes row 14. So for row 15, again, we're going to start in any stitch. I'm going to work in a new colour for this row. And into the stitch, we're going to work 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles, all into the same stitch. Once we've done that, we're going to then skip 2 stitches and repeat. So I'll start in this stitch here with a standing double. We do another double into that same stitch, chain 1 and 2 more doubles. So we're forming a 4 double crochet cluster here with a chain 1 in between. So skip 2 stitches and then we're going to do the same again into the next stitch. And that's the pattern repeat for this row, which is row 15. If you want to, again, pause the video. It's a nice easy row to work around. 2 doubles, 1 chain, 2 doubles into 1 stitch, and then we're going to skip 2 stitches and then work 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles into the next, and so on all the way around. As we come round to the last cluster here, going to work 2 doubles, chain 1 and the 2 doubles all into that last stitch there. We've got 2 stitches that we're going to skip, and then we just join into that first stitch that we did there with a slip stitch, snip off the yarn and pull through. So at the end of this row you will have 28 of these cluster sets of 2 doubles, 1 chain and 2 doubles. So ready for the next row. We're now working on row 16 and we're going to start in the chain 1 space in between any of these clusters here. And in that chain 1 space we're going to work 5 doubles. Oops. So slip knot onto the yarn. I'm going to start with a standing double. We're going to work 5 doubles into each. Oh, there's a little knot in the yarn there. Let me just snip that off and restart. So into the chain space there we're going to work 5 doubles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So 5 doubles into the space, the chain space in between the 2 sets of 2 doubles. We're then going to work a single into the space between the cluster sets, so that's this space here. So a single into that space and then straight into the next chain 1 space and work 5 doubles. Into the space between the cluster sets we're going to work a single and then over to the next chain 1 space and work the 5 doubles. Into the space between the cluster sets work a single and then straight over again into the next chain 1 space and work 5 doubles. And then again a single in between and 5 doubles into the next. A single in between and 5 doubles. So again, it's another quite easy round that you can pause the video and carry on working the pattern repeat all the way around this row. Just show better there the shells that have formed, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. Again, the last stitch you will join into the first stitch that we started with a slip stitch, fasten off, and then we'll be ready for the next round. So ready for round 17. I'm using a bright green yarn for this row, and we're going to start with any of the single crochets that we've done here between the cluster sets. We're going to work a front post double around that stitch. So that's the single crochet that we had that sits between the two cluster sets. We're now going to work a back post half double around each of these 5 doubles that we did that form the shell. So yarn over from the back, work a half double, and then again into the next stitch until we've worked 5 back post half doubles, and then we're back to the next single here, and we're going to work a front post double around that stitch. Straight onto the next 5 doubles of the next shell, we're going to work 5 half double back post around these 5 stitches. We're back then to the single where we're going to do a front post double. So it's back post half doubles around the 5 doubles of the shell, and then a front post double around the single that sits in between. So again, that's the pattern repeat for this row. If you want to carry on and work all the way around, join into the first front post double with a slip stitch, fasten off and pull the yarn through. So it's a nice simple row, front post double around the single, and then 5 back post half doubles around these 5 doubles that form the shell. And again, I'll meet you at the end of this round. So we're now ready for row 18. We're going to start in any of the front post doubles, and we're going to work a 3-loop puff stitch into that front post double there. So to do a starting puff stitch, yarn over into the stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over into the stitch, pick up a loop, yarn over into the stitch and pick up a loop, and we've got the 3-loop puff stitch there. Chain 1 to fasten off the puff stitch, and then we're going to skip a stitch. We're going to do a 3-loop puff into that next stitch along. We're going to skip a stitch and work a puff stitch into the next. Skip a stitch and we're back into the next front post double, and we'll do the next puff stitch into that stitch. So we've got a puff stitch in the first front post double, we've skipped a stitch, do a puff stitch, skip a stitch and a puff stitch, skip a stitch, and we're then into the next front post double where the next puff will lie. So as you work around, we've got a puff stitch in every front post double, and then there'll be 2 puff stitches in each of these shells, just so that you can keep a track that you've got the right amount of stitches there. So skip the next stitch, work a puff stitch, skip the next stitch and work a puff stitch, skip the next stitch, and again we're back into the next front post double, and that's where the next puff stitch is going to be worked. So as long as you've got the 2 puff stitches in the shell and then a puff stitch in each of the front post doubles, we're going to just work this pattern repeat all the way around. To the end. So if you want to carry on working the puff stitch row, and we'll just join into the top of this first puff stitch when you get round to the other side with a slip stitch and just fasten off the yarn, and we'll meet you at the beginning of the next row. And on to row 19. Row 19 is going to be a repeat of row 10, where we did the trebles into the skipped stitches and a front post double around the puff. So we're going to do exactly the same again on this row. So we're going to work, and you can start on any of the puff stitches. Start with a standing front post double around the puff stitch, and then we're going to do a treble, which is yarn over twice into that skipped stitch. In this case it's the green one, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and then a front post double around the next puff, and again a treble into the skipped stitch. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around this row. A treble, a front post double, a treble, a front post double. So if you want to pause the video again at this point and carry on working your trebles and front post doubles all the way around, when you get to the last stitch, again we're just going to join into that first front post double with a slip stitch, and you can fasten off the yarn, and I'll meet you for the next row. And now on to row 20. This is the last row before we start to square off, and oops, I've already started on this row. It's a nice simple one. It's just a back post double around each stitch. So you can start with either the chain 3 and join around the post of the stitch if you're working a 3 chain as your first stitch, or just start with a standing back post double in any stitch around, and then just work a back post double around each stitch. So again, if you want to pause the video at this point and work the rest of the row, just a straightforward back post double around each stitch. And by now your work should be pretty flat. All of the frills and the cupping have all worked themselves out, so it should be a nice flat piece of work at the moment. So I'll meet you when we get to the end of this round and we'll start to square off. So the next row is going to square off the blanket. We can start in any stitch. I would just say to make sure that you do the right amount of stitches for each of the different stitches that we do on this row. So we're going to start in any stitch around, and we're going to work 2 trebles into the same stitch. So yarn over twice and then yarn over through 3 times to make the first treble. We're going to do another treble into that same stitch. This is going to form the first corner. We're going to chain 2 and then we do another 2 trebles into that very same stitch. So we've got 4 trebles into that stitch with a 2 chain in between there. We're now going to work across the side, and we're working in every stitch. So we do a treble into each of the next 4. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to do 6 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I'll just let you catch up to make sure that you've got your correct amount. We've got 4 trebles in that first stitch, followed by 4 trebles over the next 4 stitches, and then we've worked 6 doubles across the next 6 stitches. We're now going to work 4 half doubles. There's 1, 2, 3 and 4. We now work 13 singles over the next 13 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. If I'm still going a little bit fast, you can quite easily slow the video down. If you click on the little settings cog and then reduce the speed of the video, it'll actually slow it down a little bit, or a lot if you want to slow it down more. So we've done the 13 singles. We're now going to mirror what we've already done coming down to this point. We're now going to work the same going back up. So we've got 4 half doubles. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we've got 6 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then we did 4 trebles at this side, so we'll do 4 trebles again now. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So that brings us up to the next corner. So we're going to start the whole repeat again, and I'll work that again with you one more time. So we've got 2 trebles into that same stitch, which is the next stitch along, chain 2, and we're going to work 2 more trebles into that same stitch, and that's formed the second corner. We're now going to work a treble in each of the next 4 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're now going to work 6 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We move on to the half doubles. We're going to do 4 of those. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we're going to work 13 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then again we'll mirror what we did coming down towards the middle. We'll go and work back up to the next corner. So we've got 4 half doubles. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then 6 doubles, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then 4 trebles. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and that then takes us to the next corner. So we've worked the first corner, the second corner, the third corner, and then we've got just the last 2 sides to complete. So we're just going to repeat what we did on this side going along, that we start with the 2 trebles into 1 stitch, followed by 2 chain, and then another 2 trebles into that same stitch. And that means that you're ready then to work the pattern repeat, which is 4 trebles, 6 doubles, 4 half doubles, 13 singles, 4 half doubles, 6 trebles, 6 doubles and 4 trebles, and that will take you to the next corner. So I'll let you pause the video at this point and you can carry on and work the rest of this round. So once we've completed this row, which is row 21, we've got something that's looking a little bit more like a square. So the next row again we'll carry on to square off the blanket, we're going to start in the 2 corner space, and again, as the last row, this row is exactly the same on all 4 sides. So we're going to start in that corner chain again with 2 trebles. There's 1 and 2. We're going to chain 2 and do 2 more trebles into that same chain space. Now down the sides, we're going to work in each stitch all the way along. We're going to work 4 trebles, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we're going to work 7 doubles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Just pop the rest of the blanket there so that you can see the stitches a little bit better. So we've done the corner trebles there, we've worked 4 trebles, and then we've worked 7 doubles. We're now going to do 2 half doubles, 1 and 2. We're going to skip a stitch and we're going to work 3 popcorns into the next stitch. So we skip this one and then work 3 popcorns into the next one. So the popcorn, as before, is going to be 4 doubles and then pull the loop through onto the second popcorn, and a third popcorn into that same stitch. So we've got 3 popcorns into that next stitch. We're now going to skip a stitch, which is this one here, and we're going to work 4 singles, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're now going to skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and we're going to work 5 doubles into the next stitch. And this stitch is the center point of this side. So again, we're going to mirror what we did coming down to this point. We're going to do the other way going up the next side. So we're going to skip the next 2 stitches as we skipped the 2 before there. We're going to work 4 singles. We're going to skip a stitch, which is this one here, and we're going to work 3 popcorns into the next. So again, we've got the 4 doubles to form the popcorn, and we're going to do another 2 popcorns into that same stitch. And I've just not quite got into the stitch there. and we need a third popcorn into that same stitch. We're now going to carry on working along up the side. We're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to work 2 half doubles, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. We're going to work 7 doubles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. And then we're going to work 4 trebles. We've got 4 trebles left here. We're going to work a treble in each of those stitches. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. I've just popped a different colour under there so that you can actually see the white, as it doesn't show very well on the table. And I'll just run through this row again from the beginning, and all 4 sides are worked exactly the same. So we've got the 2 trebles, 2 chain and 2 trebles into that first stitch. We follow that with 4 trebles, 7 doubles, we do 2 half doubles and then skip a stitch. We work 3 popcorns into the next stitch, we skip a stitch and work 4 singles, we skip 2 stitches and we work 5 doubles into that same stitch. We come along, we skip 2 stitches and we work 4 singles, we skip a stitch and then work the 3 popcorns into the 1 stitch, skip a stitch, work 2 half doubles, 7 doubles and 4 trebles. That brings us up to the next corner, and again we're going to do the same as we did in that first corner, which is 2 trebles, 2 chains and 2 trebles, and that brings you ready to work the whole of the pattern. Repeat again down the next side. So we'll end this part of the tutorial at this point. I'll leave you to work your 4 sides the same, and we'll start back again for part 3 on row 23. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed working Eanair along with me, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.